Aight man, this finna be a good one. So kick back and check it, cause I'm about to drop some knowledge on y'all. Today we finna dive into some street level strategy, and I ain't gonna lie, it's one of those scenarios that's straight up insane. Imagine all the major gangs in Chicago finally decide to squash the beef, put all that history and chaos aside, and pull up as one. I'm talking O Block, Latin Kings, Black Disciples, Gangster Disciples, Vice Lords, Black P Stones, every major set in one giant group chat. And who they aiming at? ICE. Yeah, ICE. The federal dudes with badges, paperwork, gats, cuffs, sometimes even Dracos, and a whole bunch of rules that the streets don't play by. Now I ain't trying to glorify none of this or tell nobody how to run the blocks. We just analyzing a straight up hypothetical. This is hood dude brain exercise. Numbers, tactics, chaos, street knowledge versus federal reach, and what would really go down if the blocks moved as one. So if you ready, grab a seat, maybe sip on something, and let's get into it because this finna get messy, wild, and a little bit cinematic in your head. Picture the streets buzzing, blocks communicating with runners and signals, Dracos and Gats ready, and ICE planning raids from above with drones and computers. Is that kind of showdown, and we finna break it down step by step. Now let's start with the streets because you can't understand this without knowing the scope. Chiraq got over 90 active street gangs running across 700 plus sets with membership that's somewhere between 60 to 100,000 soldiers. That's a whole army if you're counting heads, and it's spread all over the city. North side, south side, west side, each block with its own set, colors, rules, and hierarchy. Some of the biggest players are the Latin Kings, who are massive, organized, and got respect across multiple neighborhoods. Then you got the Black Disciples, who are no joke, and some of their members made the streets famous in music. Remember King Von? Yeah, that dude was repping the Black Disciples straight out of O Block, turning his block into legend. Then you got the Gangster Disciples, Vice Lords, Black P Stones, all of whom pack deep sets and control multiple blocks each. And you can't forget O Block itself. That block is basically a nerve center for street culture in Chicago. It's where rappers, soldiers, and legends have been born, where drills get planned, and where the reputation of blocks gets built. The streets there are alive with knowledge, respect, and the kind of experience you can't fake. Now, while some of these gangs have umbrella alliances like Folk Nation and People Nation, unity is still rare. You got decades of old beefs, turf wars, egos, and personalities that clash constantly. Even if all these soldiers wanted to link up, keeping the peace would be nearly impossible. Still, let's say hypothetically they do. The streets are armed, Dracos, Gats, nines, sometimes homemade rigs. Some soldiers roll deep, some just flex, but together, that's tens of thousands of people with serious street experience. They know every alley, shortcut, and trap house. Runners pass info in real time, neighbors become intel sources, and the city itself becomes a live map of advantage for them. It's like every corner is a potential ambush, every alley is a highway for hit-and-run tactics, and every block is an asset in a chaotic chess game. Understanding this is key before we even start thinking about how they would face ICE. Flip the map now and let's talk about ICE. Nationwide, they got over 20,000 employees, but in Chicago specifically, it's probably a few hundred active ERO agents plus local support staff. Not a tiny squad by any means, but compared to the tens of thousands of gang members, the numbers look a little scary for the feds. ICE got training, tech, drones, surveillance, and computers running maps and patterns that the streets might not even notice. They got the legal authority to arrest, detain, and remove people from the streets, and some of them even pack gats of their own. But here's the thing. While ICE has authority and structure, the streets have experience, numbers, and home field advantage. People born and raised in the blocks know every corner, every shortcut, every trap. That kind of local intelligence can't be bought or learned overnight. So if all the gangs actually linked up, numbers start to matter, and the rules of the game start to flip a little. ICE can adapt, but even the most experienced agents could get caught off guard by a coordinated street network, especially one rolling deep with Dracos, Gats, Nines, and an endless supply of street knowledge. Let's break down how this hypothetical matchup might actually play out. On the gang side, you got guerrilla tactics. These sets would split into smaller units, hit and run, move in decentralized cells, and use safe houses all over the city. They know the streets, so ambushes, traps, and escape routes are already planned in advance. Their armory isn't light either. Dracos, Gats, Nines, maybe even homemade rigs. Intel flows constantly through runners, neighbors, and people on the ground. Every corner has eyes, every rooftop might have a sniper or lookouts, and communication is fast and flexible. On the ICE side, you got organized coordination, raids, federal backup, and tech. They got surveillance cameras, drones, databases, and nationwide reach. They can plan raids, track suspects across the city, and flip people if they get the right intel. If gangs really linked up, the first few hours or days would be chaos. Streets would move like a chessboard. Feds might get caught slipping because the gangs know the alleys better, can predict patterns, and have more bodies moving fast. But long term, ICE can adapt. They can bring in resources from outside the city, flip informants, and dismantle networks with paperwork and federal reach. It's a classic example of asymmetry. Streets strong in numbers and local knowledge, ICE strong in structure, tech, and long-term reach. But short-term chaos would reign, and the blocks would have the upper hand in many small skirmishes. Io deadass. Even if all these gangs somehow decide to put aside beefs and roll deep as one mega-block army, you already know that's easier said than done. Chirac streets are soaked with history, grudges, and vendettas that don't die overnight. Every block got old beefs, every set got leaders with egos bigger than Soldier Field, and even within a single gang, there's factions trying to flex more than the next dude. So you imagine throwing all that together and expecting perfect teamwork? Nah, fam, that shit finna get stupid real fast. See some sets roll deep with Dracos and Gats, and some only got shooters with Nines or low-key heat. Some soldiers are loyal, ride or die type, ready to die for their block, and some are just flexing, trying to stunt. The moment someone feels disrespected or sees someone trying to step on their turf, trust breaks immediately. Communication gets messy, runners start tripping, signals get missed, and suddenly you got a squad fighting each other instead of ICE. Even if you got some temporary alliance, the streets finna remind everybody why old grudges exist. Blocks got history, and history don't forgive, and let's not forget the personalities. Every set has a king, a lieutenant, a few wild cards. If one leader feels like he ain't getting respect or a block isn't getting his cut, chaos erupts. You imagine 10 different egos trying to make federal level strategy? That shit turns into a full-on comedy of errors, Dracos flying, dudes yelling, some running off to settle turf issues instead of sticking to the plan. Even with the best intentions, the internal chaos in the ranks would be almost as dangerous as ICE itself. So the moral is simple. Even if the blocks try to pull up as one, the streets might just tear themselves apart before the federal dudes even know what's happening. Now check the ops. ICE ain't untouchable either. Nah. Some of these agents are basically civilians packing heat, trying to coordinate raids in a city that's alive, breathing, and full of people who grew up knowing every alley, trap house, and escape route. You ever seen a federal team try to chase a shooter who knows the block like the back of their hand? That shit looks easy in the movies, but in real life, streets move fast and ICE can get played. Runners, lookouts, and scouts see everything before the feds even step off the trucks. Miscommunication happens, agents get split up, doors get kicked in at the wrong time, and suddenly a squad of 20 turns into a few isolated dudes trying to survive. Even with drones, databases, and surveillance, the streets are unpredictable. Someone flanks, someone signals, and ICE can be boxed in like rookies in the first day of boot camp. And let's keep it real. Heat is everywhere in Chirac, Dracos, Gats. Even 9 popping out from windows, corners, cars, rooftops. You don't get trained for that chaos. Federal rules slow them down too. They can't just go full reckless like the blocks do. They gotta ask permission, check legal steps, follow procedures, which can be exploited by locals who don't follow rules at all. Plus, the terrain favors the streets, alleys, abandoned buildings, hidden paths. ICE is trained, but this is home turf for soldiers who eat, sleep, and breathe Chicago blocks. One misstep, and even experienced agents could be ambushed, trapped, or caught in a crossfire. The odds ain't bad, but don't sleep on how home field advantage, chaos, and local knowledge can make ICE's experience look sloppy. Even with all their gadgets, manpower, and legal power, they're vulnerable in ways most people can't imagine. So here's my prediction, straight from hood dude logic. If all the gangs really linked up and decided to throw down against ICE, the initial hours and maybe days would be pure chaos. The blocks would control streets, alleys, and traps, move faster than federal intel can track, and hit ICE squads with guerrilla tactics they ain't ready for. Dracos, Gats, and Nines everywhere. Runners passing info, scouts on rooftops. It'd be messy, unpredictable, and probably make the news in a heartbeat. In that short term, the blocks got the upper hand, no question. But long term, unity in Chicago gangs is fragile. History don't forgive. Egos, old grudges, turf disputes. Sooner or later, someone finna step on toes and internal fights start popping off. Maybe a set rolls off to handle beef in a neighborhood instead of sticking to the plan. Maybe leaders argue over who controls what street. The mega gang alliance that looked unstoppable for a minute starts to crumble. That's when ICE can play the long game. They flip informants, bring in outside resources, use surveillance and databases to rebuild control, and gradually dismantle the alliance. Short term, that's the streets hustle. Long term, man, who knows? Blocks move fast, wild, and loud. ICE, they patient, stacked with resources, playing the long game. First few hours, streets finna pop off. Rooftops full of shooters, Dracos spitting, nine rattling, runners shouting signals, whole block looking like a war movie. But chaos can't run forever, and someone's gotta see the bigger play. That's why this whole scenario crazy. Bottom line, if the blocks roll together, you get mad short-term power, short-term wins, short-term chaos. But don't sleep. Time could flip the script on anyone. Alright, enough yapping from me. I want to hear what y'all think. Could the blocks really roll together? Could O-Block, Latin Kings, Black Disciples, Vice Lords, and the rest actually link up and run a mega move on ICE? Slide your thoughts in the comments. Let me know how y'all see it going down. I'll be reading every word, maybe snatching some ideas for the next vid. This that real hood dude territory. I want to see how y'all minds work picturing the streets and them feds clashing. If you liked what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe. I got a whole lot of knowledge to drop on y'all.